You've probably wondered, how do decisions get made? How do projects get funded? What is the process by which you get the top investors in the space to consider your crypto project and fund it? Today, we're here to make that process very real and show you how things actually happen. We've assembled a fantastic group of venture capitalists from FTX, Digital Currency Group, Tribe, and Alliance DAO. And we are here today to have our whales, some of the top minds in the space, ask our projects the tough questions and really see, is this a project that they would go forward with? Is this a project they take a meeting with? Is this a project they would fund? So let's strap in, enjoy the ride. You're going to learn a lot, and we're really going to see if you want to get to the top of the crypto VC world, do you have what it takes to make it? Our first project, I'd like the Krypton team to take the stage.
Hi, I'm Michael from Krypton. The promise of DeFi is to make the world of trading a fairer, better, and more efficient place, but it's not really doing that at the moment. In fact, there are three fundamental problems. So first of all, everyone knows that transactions on mainnet are extremely expensive. Existing DEX mechanisms are economically inefficient to optimize for gas efficiency, and that opens the door for toxic trading on a massive scale. As we move into a multi-chain world where no one size fits all, different ecosystems become increasingly siloed, and that leads to liquidity fragmentation. This is why institutions are staying out of DeFi as much as they can. Krypton aims to solve all of these challenges using Chainlink's Oracle technology. Our plan is to build on Chainlink's upcoming cross-chain interoperability protocol that allows smart contract interactions across blockchains. So Krypton users will be able to trade in a joint order book no matter which blockchain their order originates from. And that's going to avoid liquidity fragmentation across blockchain ecosystems. Krypton itself is implemented as a hybrid smart contract. It minimizes on-chain compute and moves the most computationally complex aspects to a decentralized Oracle network. Even if you don't care about the cross-chain aspects, Krypton will still move all the orchestration overhead, all the state management, and so on and so forth to the most cost-effective master chain. Now, this is basically this absurd DeFi robbery that we've been experiencing for the last 1 or 2 years that we all know under the name of miner extractable value. But the craziest thing about this is that it's not even showing the whole extent of the problem. So what this graph that's taken from Flashbots displays is only a small subset of the shenanigans that are being pulled off by toxic traders every day on a small subset of protocols on a subset of blockchains. And specifically, it is looking at arbitrage, but not really at front running or sandwich attacks. If you look at the graph on the right, you can see that most of the toxic trading is actually going on DEX protocols, not so much on lending protocols. Still, in 2021 alone, almost $750 million were stolen by these toxic trading schemes. So it has to do, of course, with how decentralized exchanges came about. And so at first, there was basically nothing, right? The first iteration of DEX protocols like Synthetics or Uniswap was severely constrained by the computational capacity limits on chain. And so they were, of course, optimizing for gas efficiency at the expense of economic efficiency. And that was what opened the doors for what we just saw, this crazy extent of toxic trading. Now in 2022, we have hybrid smart contracts. And so basically, they are very sophisticated Chainlink decentralized Oracle networks, and that just allows us to move whatever doesn't have to be on-chain off the blockchain. Now, we personally believe that the next wave of DeFi protocols will see peer-to-pool designs be replaced with peer-to-peer mechanisms, where we don't need a smart contract to act on behalf of a liquidity pool, but both sides will be symmetric and can deploy all the logic that they want to make the best decisions. Now, Krypton is an instance of this new way of thinking. So it uses the power of Chainlink Dons to implement a novel trading mechanism that's resistant to front-running adverse selection and other sources of miner extractable value. During the hackathon last year, we developed a proof of concept. It works. It's deployed on a public testnet. You can check it out at helium.krypton.exchange. Just connect your MetaMask if you like, and let us know what you think. Our team consists of 3 people. I've known Nathan since 2008 when he was my student at UCLA. I've known Andreas even longer since he's my younger brother. My background is academic in economics and mathematical finance. I worked as a finance quant in the asset management industry. And more recently, I was on the founding team of a decentralized derivatives trading protocol where we raised $2.2 million. Nathan has 25 years experience building internet infrastructure and managing software teams in VC-backed startups with multiple successful exits. Andreas has a background in mathematics and physics and works as a full stack engineer. He has more of an artistic vein and helps us design and build the front end. So there's, of course, fierce competition in the DEX space. We simply picked maybe 3 of what we think are representative examples, archetypes, so to speak, of different ways that purport to solve this issue of toxic trading. None of them, really fully work. Some of them won't work at all. And we can discuss more about this if you like during the Q&A. So community is important. We need to jumpstart this. And so our idea is to leverage existing communities of strategically aligned ecosystems like the Link Marines using an NFT-based community engagement program. If we think about the prospect of what we can do, so Krypton is really unparalleled in terms of economic efficiency and also gas efficiency, because moving these complex computations off-chain. So our goal is for DeFi to become the standard for crypto trading. And you see, it's a massive opportunity that's being unlocked by Chainlink and Krypton. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll open it up to the whales now.
Could you please explain in a little bit more detail, please, how you're able to, protect against MEV? What is the sort of novel mechanism that's at work here?
Oh yeah, let me just share my screen again. And we're just going to go to one of the backup slides. Okay, so all right, that's basically like a small overview. So what we're doing is so our analysis is that the reason why there's toxic trading, and it's so simple, both in order books, limit order books, which are common in traditional markets, and AMMs, which are commonplace today in DeFi, is that there are only 2 trading speeds. Either if there's no match, either no trading takes place at all, or in a single instant, a finite quantity of value, a finite quantity of shares or tokens is exchanged. And so this basically makes the ordering in which transactions or trades happen crucial. So that's why if you can beat somebody to the punch, if you're an Age of T and you're just a few microseconds faster, or if you can buy out a block on Flashbots and you can just put your transactions in first, that's why you can win, right? And so we're replacing that with a structure that executes trades as continuous flows over time. And so the mechanism is very simple. It's really just economics 101. We just changed the perspective a little bit. So if you think about economics, you have these demand and supply curves where price induces quantity demanded or price induces quantity supplied. Instead of doing that, we just say, okay, price induces quantity per unit of time, which is trading speed. And then traders will be able to formulate, in addition to their price limits and in addition to their desired quantities, they can just formulate a max trading speed at which they're willing to trade. And then we're looking for an equilibrium in this space of price versus trading speed. So there are a number of things that people can do. So if you are not a sophisticated trader, and if you won't be able to react in like a millisecond or half a second or something like that, you can just choose a low trading speed. And then even if the price moves unfavorably against you, you're not getting ripped off too much. Of course, the way this works is, so kind of diving a little bit deeper, is you basically set 2 limit prices, kind of a lower limit price and upper limit price. And then as the price moves in your favor, you speed up your trading. As the price moves against you, you slow it down. And so basically, I think it makes the tools of toxic traders just moot. They're completely biteless, because if someone has like 1 second or 1 minute information advantage, that they have inside information, or their Renaissance technology who just does their statistical computations fast or something like that, then they would need to monetize the advantage in that time frame. So what they're going to do is they're going to select the highest trading speed they can, but they're still going to reach the trading speed cap of the other side. And of course, they have to move the price extremely to crowd out everyone else. And that's the signal, right? So the signal is given before the damage happens, whereas in traditional trading systems that work at infinite speed, the signal happens. Everyone knows, it makes markets efficient. Unfortunately, the robbery has already taken place. So that's, I think, kind of the difference in a nutshell.
Can I ask, what are you doing to alleviate some of the negative externalities of arbitrageurs? If everyone knows how the algorithm is going to execute this trade up front, can people plan around that and look what's happening elsewhere within the DeFi ecosystem and take advantage of that?
Yeah, so when you analyze the system, I don't think there is a great opportunity for arbitrage in there. And that's basically because, so at least not for people to lose on Krypton. People might lose somewhere else, but we don't care about that, right? These are the systems we try to replace. So as soon as different prices form on, say, different centralized exchanges, people will notice this, right? They can implement their own market making algorithms and then just adjust their quotes on Krypton. And to the extent they're getting ripped off, they won't get ripped off for long.
Based on this concept, how do you ensure Krypton would win the price? And what I mean by that is, based on the concept that I just saw, it ultimately will depend on if the price will hit any of those parameters that you set, right? And then if the parameters are set, then there's obviously going to be other trade execution platforms, DEXs that are going to try to vie to get it at that price based on their kind of core concept that they've created. So then the question then becomes like, could Krypton win that bid versus somebody else, versus another exchange?
Oh yeah, so I think it depends on the actors on Krypton, right? And so market makers or liquidity providers will just not be ripped off to the same extent that they are on AMMs or on other centralized exchanges. So they will likely go there and they can set, low spreads if they like, and because they're not losing as much to toxic traders, and so that will surely attract liquidity traders, others to just work there. I think it's the way we look at this is just a more efficient economic mechanism where everyone is happier except for the bad guys.
And are you just using flash bots on the back end?
No.
Because I saw something about on one of your slides that said that you use flash bots or side flash bot logo.
I think flash bots is kind of what's trying to rip off these facilitating the rip off for others.
Yeah.
And I think if flash bots were Superman, then Krypton would be their kryptonite because it doesn't matter here.
Got it. Yep. This is more similar to Paradigm's TWAM, right? Or
yeah,
TWAM.
Yeah, right.
It's similar to that. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I would say theirs is just based on one price, right? That they would set.
Yeah. So TWAM won't work, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't function from a game theoretic perspective, unfortunately.
Yep.
But interesting idea though.
Hey, Michael, taking a step back, like why are you doing cross-chain first before focusing like solely on a single blockchain? And then would love to just like better understand the demand for the cross-chain DEXs.
So I think it's a very good question. So it depends a little bit on Chainlink's timeline when they're going to come out with CCIP. We did get the inside scoop of CCIP, so we know what they're doing. We know what their roadmap is. Unfortunately, we cannot divulge that publicly because of NDAs that are in place. What I can say is that we have looked at the architecture and we have designed an architecture that will work with that first iteration of the CCIP. Now, depending on when CCIP comes out, our plan is to basically release that in the first half of 2022, so maybe by June or something like that. And if CCIP isn't ready by then of course we're going to do this a multi-chain thing, right? That's where there's liquidity fragmentation on blockchains where it makes sense, and then later on, maybe in 2022 or whenever we feel comfortable and there's demand and so on and so forth, and just move into a cross-chain world. So I would say the cross-chain aspect is something that is of high interest to institutions at the moment. If they want to transfer tokens between chains, then they go through centralized exchanges just because the bridges have not been good enough. We hope that Chainlink, because they've done everything else perfectly so far, is simply going to solve that problem for us as an infrastructure provider. And then we're basically good to go. But good question. Thank you so much.
Last time for one last question. I'll toss it over to Amy since she's not had a chance to will here.
Also at a higher level, I'd love to understand kind of your target audience for this. Because I actually think a lot of high frequency traders and some of the trading whales don't mind MEV and actually have kind of baked that into their trading strategies. And so I was wondering, like, who's the target audience here and how big is that?
I would say that the target audience is, of course, institutions. Now, we're going to create a front end for the consumer facing side, of course, because why not? It's kind of the 99% that are not toxic, right? It's not the HFTs, they're not going to like us. It's more like the pension funds, the mutual funds, the family offices. Everyone is basically losing out either in traditional markets at the time or in crypto markets.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go to I think the time is up for the Q&A. Thanks to everybody. Moment of truth here. Let's go over to the whales. We'll start with Paul.
Hey, Michael, let's take that next meeting, man. Would love to learn
Awesome.
more about what you're building at Krypton.
Looking forward
Awesome.
to it.
All right, Imran.
Yeah, I'd be interested in learning more.
All right, Tim.
Thank you, Michael and Nathan. I've got a couple of concerns. I think it's a no to the next meeting from me, and some of my concerns are around arbitrages. If the trading strategy that you're going to be employing is sort of public up front, and then also the likelihood that people are probably going to still be using flashbots, and like what the comparison is when you talk about expense of your strategy versus using flashbots. So it's a no from me, but thank you very much for you guys' time.
All right, Amy.
Yeah, probably also no for me, just because I think right now, I do agree. I think more people are going to Flashbox and blocks route and others path. And I think, and I totally understand your target audience, but I think they're still like a few years away from really coming a lot online.
All right. Well, thank you to the Krypton team. A couple of meetings set up, or meetings progressing. Thanks for your time. And now for a voyage into some NFT and gaming. The Cozy Reef team, it's your turn.
Hello, and welcome to Cozy Reef. Cozy Reef is an NFT blockchain game ecosystem, one where high-stakes, skill-based games running fully on-chain provide for exciting and unique experiences that are hard to replicate elsewhere. Our project's first major focus is seasonal content, where players compete in a series of games. The survivors of all games within a season are rewarded a rare mask NFT that they can use to turn their player into a Cozy Reef killer. These killers will have community privileges such as voting power to what the future games get introduced to the Cozyverse look like. We believe that this evolving utility, where a player earns a mask that makes their derivative NFT more valuable than the original, sets us apart from other awesome NFT projects in this space. It really allows the gameplay to shine as a competitive, worthwhile experience because only the best players are able to earn that Cozy Reef killer mask, and that experience feels rewarding. Our project's second major focus is progression-based rewards. As the team develops new games to keep each season feeling fresh for players competing for Cozy Reef killer masks, we have created a replay system that allows players to go back and play their favorite games from previous seasons to earn Cozy coins. These coins can be spent for in-game rewards attached to Cozy Reef's overall ecosystem. Finally, we want to welcome other projects into Cozy Reef's platform and provide ways for these projects to interact in meaningful ways with one another. We've created an integration pilot called Cozy Penguins, which will be going live February 6th and provide a cool, interesting incentive for pudgy penguin owners to try out Cozy Reef games. Our final major focus is the team itself. This team we've built since the Chainlink Hackathon knows what it takes to create a fun, engaging set of games, how to tie those games to an overall sense of progression, and how to leverage Chainlink to build this entire ecosystem on-chain. Finally, before we transition to tech, we're proud of the base of playtesters we've been able to build up who are helping us tune the game for a February launch. Without them, we wouldn't be able to tune the game nearly as well as we have been able to. And we believe part of our overall loyalty comes from our transparency. We frequently update our roadmap so players can see what we're improving, and it's directly because of this feedback that we've been able to add so many awesome features to the game. Now I'm going to pass it to our tech lead for some information about our technology.
Hey everyone. So when it comes to the tech, our vision originally essentially centers around creating that truly on-chain experience. We wanted to build fun games without creating any centralized components. So we immediately gravitated towards using Chainlink keepers and VRFs to execute our games without needing any sort of centralized game server. This not only defrays traditional infrastructure complexity, but also really allows us to explore how much we can push that concept of a decentralized game. So here's a snapshot of our recent large playtest that we had. The key innovation here is that every single number and action you see on the screen, the percents, the move buttons, the number of players, the checkpoints, they're all on chain. These are numbers and computations that are fully stored and executed by our deployed game contract. This game currently runs on a configurable schedule that is also decentralized using a scheduling contract with Chainlink Keeper support. This ensures our game is running consistently across every time zone, and we've been engaging with folks around the world during our beta launch. We also leverage Chainlink nodes with a custom job specification to enable us to build a cross-chain proof of reserve protocol. Our goal here is to disassociate Cozy game passes, which will live on Polygon, with our Cozy Reef NFT living on Ethereum mainnet. An external view function adapter will let us verify that users own an NFT before providing them with a game pass for the Cozy Reef ecosystem of games. This allows us to spread the utility of our tokens across multiple chains, which will leave us more flexible when integrating with other projects. Finally, we've been rewarding our playtesters with an ERC20 compliant Cozy coin. They've been stress testing our system by using the coins for purchasing allow list, free mint, and airdrop slots for our future NFT launch, but we fully expect to build a tokenomics system post-launch as well. Tokenomics is a complex product space, but we've been ideating on leveraging tokens for in-game cosmetics, as well as replacing typical staking models with scholarship programs. Our first and foremost goal is to make fun games though, and have our tokens integrate with that game experience. If you want a deeper dive in our tech, we've also published a white paper and worked with Chainlink to produce a tech blog post about some of our tech and game design philosophies. We're definitely really excited about what we can bring to the table when it comes to on-chain, blockchain-based games.
In terms of our ask, we're looking for a strategic partner to help us grow Cozy Reef as we prepare for our launch in February. If y'all are interested in trying out the product, our next playtest is 8 p.m. Pacific time today, so come check this out. Thank you.
All right, over to the whales.
By the way, so I love the art in your game. I think it's really whimsical and very fun. One thing that I'd love to understand is what are the games that you're making?
Yeah, I can talk about that real quick. So we're focused around community-based games. So we're not striving to hit that AAA kind of quality and polish, mainly because some of the limitations with playing games fully on chain, right? You have the limitation of EVM, the limitations of gas, but we're trying to focus on community-based games that do take advantage of what blockchain can offer. So like, for example, our first game is this kind of collaborative sling-based game where you're trying to make your way to the finish line. We've been thinking about some sort of kind of global tabletop kind of games, which fit more to kind of the more turn-based aspect of playing things on chain versus kind of more real-time AAA games. So that's kind of the avenue we're looking for when it comes to game design.
Is everything turn-based? I worry if people are, executing certain actions on chain, that it would be possible for other people to look at what's happening and, position themselves to do well in the game on account of what they're seeing others, do. Is that a concern here?
Yeah, that's actually something we cover a lot in our white paper. The white paper kind of covers not only like tech, but like kind of some of the game design philosophies that you need to have and keep in mind. And one of that is exactly that what the issue you're talking about, like being able to front run when you know that all the other actions are what other actions are, because kind of everything's public. So we've designed that at least for our first game, and we're going to keep making sure that our games are able to, you can have all the information, but it won't give you a significant or any advantage. So if you imagine like chess, where it's fully public information, you don't really have an advantage. So that's kind of the sort of games we definitely are constraining ourselves to make sure that, yeah, there's no like cheating involved.
Got it, thanks.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Amy. I think the rabbit with like the big purple eyes is super cool. It's fun and exciting, that's for sure. I mean, game development just overall generally takes a long time, right? Longer time. Curious how you see timeline, and curious what are your next launches and next milestones you got hit?
Yeah, I can talk about the game, and maybe Ziggy can hop in for kind of the general multiverse kind of strategy that we're going for. For the game itself, yeah, game development definitely takes time, but the advantage we have here is, one, we have fairly experienced engineers that are experienced in making games, so that obviously helps a lot in terms of speeding up development. But the other aspect is actually to kind of the way I answered Amy's question. We're not aiming at AAA large scale games, and from that perspective, we're looking for like community-based games that still are fun, but aren't scoped up to need like, an advanced 3D rendering pipeline and things like that people expect out of the AAA game. So that definitely also cuts down on the scope quite a bit. It helps that gaming in the NFT space is still fairly naive generally. So people aren't expecting like the next shooter on blockchain. They're expecting something fun. And we think we can kind of deliver that. So that's on the engineering front.
When you think about go-to-market, given the fact that there's many play to earn games that are coming out, and I'm just saying play to earn on one side, but there's many games that are coming out that's leveraging crypto NFTs. So how do you think about attracting your first 100 to 1,000 users?
Yeah, so I can talk about that a little bit. I think the key here is how we position ourselves within the community. So we're kind of finding ourselves in the intersection between like the PFP Twitter community and gaming. So when we talk about the Cozyverse, what that means is we're basically going to be able to use this proof of reserves concept to pull in and integrate projects from any chain and just bring them into the game. So if you own, for example, actually, I don't really want to name names. So let's just say the Cozy Penguin. So let's say you own a Cozy Penguin. We can just allow list that project, bring in the art assets, and you can just mint the Game Pass and off you go and you play on our ecosystem. We've currently have been talking to a lot of different projects that have quite a bit of influence in the community. We have 2 collaboration partners already expressed interest and wants to get on our timeline. We have about 10 projects that we're talking to right now.
So the go-to-market strategy is importing other PFPs into your metaverse?
That's correct. So right now, the other paradigm that we kind of want to shift is that with a lot of these PFP NFT projects, they ship the project. There's some really cool art behind it. They shop their team around. They promise a roadmap. The roadmap hasn't been developed yet. We want to go to market with a fully functional game. We've been in beta test for over a month now. The schedule, the tokens, everything's complete. We've actually attracted a very interesting organic group of folks that are engaging with us almost daily, and they're actually going out of their way to introduce us to the other projects to integrate. So I've done surprisingly very little cold calling myself. All of these have been through introductions, through people who've seen our project and are just really excited about it.
And how long are players in your ecosystem playing if it's live? So like if you, let's just say you get your first 20 users, how active are they? How long are they in the game in itself? And then maybe some churn if you have any of that data.
Yeah, so for our first,
go for it.
Go for it.
Oh yeah, I was going to say we've been actually running this playtest since beta launch. So beta launch for us was I think a month ago, and we have about at this point 20-30 users every I guess 3 times a day. We run the playtest every 16 hours essentially to capture kind of people in every time zone. And so in terms of how long they're in the game, each game that we're running right now for the first game, which we're calling Slingshot Sailors, it runs about an hour and a half. And so it's kind of a start and finish type of game. And then so they play and then they come in 16 hours later for the next play test. So we actually have a group of 10 to 20 people that are pretty dedicated, hopping in every play test. But we also have seen people from all over the world kind of hop in now and then as well.
Cool.
Can you talk about?
Yeah, go.
Can you talk about scalability? How many players is it possible to have, playing these games at the same time, and how many instances of the game can run in parallel?
So from a scalability standpoint, our initial target is 10,000. So the core loop to earn, the cool bunny mask and to become a Cozy Reef killer is to, I guess the best analogy we have is like the Squid Game, right? We're going to release a series of games that is going to be effectively be our funnel. Players who make it to the end, get invited to the group. Since our project we're intending to release with 10,000, our scalability considerations is having 10,000 players play in that one instance. Granted, we have different considerations for the games that are repeatable. So one thing, if we run an hour-long game with 10,000 players on Polygon, cost efficiency is something we're really considerate about. We don't want to spike the gas. So for those elimination games, we might run it over the course of a couple of days or even a week. So the games that we create need to be flexible to both of those timelines. And I'm sorry, Tim, what was your second question?
No, you've answered the question well. It was about number of players and then number of games that can run in parallel.
Great. Yeah, in terms of games running in parallel, as we release new games, the biggest thing that we want to consider is making sure that enough players join each game to make it fun. Currently, our game is not very fun if you're the only person playing. A big element of this is being able to chat in the Discord. We have about 10 people hopping into the Discord voice chat and just kind of, communicating with each other, convincing each other to take big risks on the slings, etc. We want to maintain that dynamic, and the amount of games that we run will be reflective on the number of players in the ecosystem.
All right, we have time for one more question. Who wants it?
I'll ask. I'd love to understand, like, magic moments in the game, right? Like there are a lot of fun moments talking on Discord, you mentioned it, etc. But like from your side of view, like what are magic moments for a user?
Yeah, so with this game, like the core mechanic is you're trying to gain a certain amount of distance. The numbers that you have at play to consider is the percentage chance that a sling fires, the multiplier and the distance you get if you take that risk. And the higher the multiplier is usually associated with a higher risk of backfiring in which you lose distance. So the magic moments we've seen, we've had a recent playtest where there are 20 players 1 turn away from being able to reach the finish line with 1 turn to go before getting eliminated. And there's a sling with a 55% chance backfire. And all 20 players hopped in it, and just, that anticipation and the excitement when the sling actually fired. I consider that one of our most magic moments.
I have to ask a question.
Last question.
Why you and the team, like what's about your background that will make you successful in building this game out?
That's a good question. So I think we have a very strong engineering team. These folks, I've personally worked with these folks for over 5 years. We all come from a games background. I've recently joined the blockchain ecosystem as an engineering manager and have been there for approaching half a year now. So the team has proven experience working really well with each other and industry experience.
Awesome. All right. So moment of truth here. Let's go to Amy first.
I'll probably pass on the meeting. I think it's clear that you guys are well connected in the ecosystem. But I think for me in the gaming space, I'm really looking for like a discussion around the game and why that game, the game mechanics and the game loop, etc., versus having a discussion around the partners and the NFTs and and a lot of the other parts of it. I think you guys have great art. I would recommend you guys think a little bit more carefully about the types of game that you're launching, because there's a lot of details in games other than that it's not AAA. And so would totally recommend that.
Yeah, I think Amy, what I've heard talking to a lot of folks is it's the mechanics that matter, and most projects that are pitching don't focus on the mechanics first. So good feedback. Imran.
Yeah, I probably would pass because ultimately, similar to what Amy said, but in regards to the game itself, there has to be a pull factor that keeps the user sticky. And so I think mini games are a good way to do that short term, but long term, you have to build a cult around your game, and I'd like to see that more.
All right, Paul.
Look, it's still early. I think there's the art is definitely appealing, super interesting. But for me, I have to pass because I think especially for this type of potential investment, it's a little too early in terms of assessing it out.
And last but not least, Tim.
So it's also going to be a pass from me. I think you're doing some pretty innovative things there. I think getting the random number generators into the game, this proof of reserve where you have an NFT on the ETH mainnet and you can bring that into the game, as well as the interoperability. I think that's going to be really interesting down the line, but I would agree with what others have said that it feels a bit early for me at this point.
All right. Well, thank you very much to the Cozy Reef team. I think that you got some good feedback from our whales here. Really interesting project up next. Newsic is exploring how to DeFi the music industry.
Did you know there's more than 15 times the amount of money locked in DeFi than the entire music industry made in 2021? Imagine if we could bring real-world music assets into this space so we can have sustainable yield with predictable royalty streams that are accrued on songs over time. Introducing Newsic DAO, future streaming capitalized. Music royalties are a reliable asset class which are not beholden to the market's boom and bust cycles. But there's a disconnect from the copyright itself and the royalty stream it's supposed to be protecting. The problem is that artists' revenue is over many years and traditional banks won't finance music streaming income. Meanwhile, there's a new class of investor that would hugely benefit from the real-world yield music assets bring. So we've built Newsic DAO, the community-owned decentralized infrastructure, establishing music as the foundational building block of Web3. Royalty yielding, non-fungible bonds with a rating engine powered by real-world music streaming data. Governance, NFTs, enable holders to make and vote on proposals. And a music-backed deflationary currency powers our community. It all starts with the artist choosing to mint an NFT bond, collateralizing the bond engine with their streaming data. Once music streaming income is reassigned to the NFT, an advance from the protocol is instantly received. Part of the bond's value is assigned to a yield compounder, meaning streaming income is deployed to buy back and burn the music currency, creating a truly deflationary asset. The bond engine is inspired by traditional bond ratings, but with a DeFi spin. Only over-collateralized contracts receive an investment grade, while the lower tiers are maintained through regular repayments. Popular, well-financed artists treat this as a yield opportunity, while independent artists get to bootstrap their career without giving up equity. To complement these instruments, Music DAO acquires catalog outright by leveraging a decentralized music oracle network. Music data is automatically analyzed and presented to DAO governance for consideration. DAO holders vote to approve and the catalog is purchased, directly leading to further buybacks and deflation of the music currency. Our team unites deep blockchain expertise with music industry insiders, financial experts, and marketing masterminds. I produced my first NFT music prototype in 2018 and can see the market has finally reached maturity for this kind of product. We're committed to being part of the re-DeFi or regulated DeFi vanguard in setting up the decentralized infrastructure for the music industry as a public good. Let's face it, artists are doxxed by default, and they'll never come on board unless we do this by the book. We're now raising our seed round in order to launch the Genesis Bond, demonstrating the technology to the world with an established artist. There's still time to participate, and we're in talks with crypto VCs out of some of the most exciting ecosystems in the industry. We're targeting the public auction for this spring, which directly leads to the first music catalog acquisition. Which catalog will it be? The Doors, Billie Eilish, Prince? Join Music DAO today and be part of the decision-making process that defines the future of music. We're raising through 10,000 governance NFTs, with the first 10% dropping prior to protocol launch. One NFT is one vote. Further NFTs are unlocked as liquidity milestones are achieved in order to ensure distribution reaches as far and wide as possible. Our community does not only include music lovers and crypto natives, but committed artists and key players seeking to transform music. To ensure quorum, the Treasury will hold 50% of the NFT supply, with members remaining in place at the discretion of Music DAO. Of the initial supply, 25 NFTs are reserved for core contributors and advisors, including some of the most exciting artists in the world. As we prepare for launch, we invite strategic investors to join our mission to unlock a new epoch for music. My name is Adam Place, and I'm a core contributor to Music DAO. Thank you, Wales. And here's our ETH address if you want to ape in right now.
Awesome presentation. Loved it. Thanks a lot. All right, over to the whales.
I'd love to ask, oh, sorry. Just at a high level, by the way, definitely really interesting area of DAO development. And curious, like the big music DAO right now is Royal, and particularly in the royalty space. And I was wondering how you guys differentiate, philosophically or from the product perspective.
Yeah, really interesting question. So music is conceived as as a multi-chain agnostic standard, so that third-party NFT marketplaces can leverage our NFT bond infrastructure in order to mint NFTs, which are yield bearing, right? So and part of that, we've actually been in discussions with right, who are one of the big music marketplace over on Tezos, and there is a lot of interest for them to get involved on an investment level also, which would open up the opportunity for them and incentivize us to build on Tezos, right? Because we're kind of on ETH by proxy, but basically this is the open source architecture. I think that Royal is not technically a DAO, but a private company. So that's kind of, I guess we're working on the kind of community driven side rather than like kind of Web 2.5 model, which is more like OpenSea. Does that answer your question?
Yep, I think definitely one of the the reason why they formed the company that way though is this space that you're going into is it's basically like the biggest challenge is actually legal and compliance, regulatory, etc. And so how are you guys thinking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, this is like a massive issue, and as I said, artists are doxxed by default, so they don't want to get a letter from the SEC. So we've got we're with one of the top attorneys in the space. We're discussing the process. We're looking at where we domicile because, of course, there are opportunities in the US, but there are also opportunities around the world. Doing a test case release, for example, in the UK is potentially an option based on, my background being from the UK and some of the kind of progressive regulations that they're looking to emulate coming over from places like Switzerland, for example, and Gibraltar. And so it may be that, we don't reach the US market, although we onboard US artists, we don't reach the US retail market until we've really validated the concept outside of the market.
Just a follow-up question on that, please. With these NFTs, obviously the blockchain doesn't know international, borders, and it would be quite possible for investors in the US to get involved in your ecosystem. And so, how are you thinking about protecting against that as well? I mean, just echoing Amy's points around, some of the regulatory concerns here.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're looking at. So, I mean, we're basically, we're taking it step by step. We're consulting with the relevant attorneys, and we're just, I mean, I think, so what we, one of the researchers at Signum proposed that this summer is to be a new DeFi summer, right? Which around regulated DeFi. So what we see is an ecosystem of wallet providers that, we don't want to get involved in doing the KYC, for example, but what we see is an ecosystem of wallet providers that have, that are doing non-custodial wallets and have secured, they have KYC, and they're taking care of that. So what we're looking to do is leveraging these kinds of wallet providers, right? MetaMask, we all love it, but it's kind of Netscape. If you look at what the kind of technology that exists today, and with the kind of regulations, we see the re-DeFi summer as being a part of the ecosystem that is leveraging some of these new wave providers that have already built some of these components, such as KYC, into their infrastructure, right? I think the traditional DeFi infrastructure, which kind of sounds ridiculous considering, we've only been in the space for 2 years now, but the traditional DeFi infrastructure doesn't support the regulators, right? So we could never get away from that. And I think that there's enough new people in the space that we could, moving over to a different wallet, it's not such a big deal. And if you don't want to get doxxed, you're just going to have to, you're not going to be able to use music yet, I'm afraid.
Got it. Thank you.
How are the bonds working? How does the bonds work?
Yeah, so the bonds are essentially so within the rating, there are 4 different grades, and in the top grades, these are all over collateralized. And the idea here is that these are really for established artists that could treat this as a yield opportunity, rather than your kind of up and coming artists that actually could use the lower grade bonds in order to bootstrap their career, right? You don't need more than a few thousand fans in order to have some kind of music streaming income. And then over 10 years, that can become quite meaningful and enough to finance, a music video for a couple of $1,000s, right? So, and then it's based on the repayment. The repayment is amortized. So you, as an artist, you would continue to make collateral payments into the NFT over the course of the life of the bond. And if you fall behind, then the rating will get downgraded, right? So there's a kind of quarter buffer. If you haven't repaid, the bond will go yellow. You know, if you haven't repaid for 2 quarters, then it'll go red, and it essentially becomes a junk bond, which is still, right, there's a secondary market for junk bonds, and these items are still potentially have collectible power in their own right.
Thank you.
Where is the yield coming from?
I'm sorry?
Where is the yield coming from?
So the yield's coming from the streaming income. So in the, you know, as an artist, you receive your music streaming income on a quarterly basis. And what is done is the income gets reassigned on the distributor level. So as in Spotify pays out to distributors, and then distributors reassign that income into the NFT. At that point, the income, the bond is minted.
Hey, Adam, nice to meet you. From a go-to-market perspective, what would you say your secret competitive advantages?
So I think that the great thing is that because this is a DAO, and we've got, you know, we've got the opportunity for this to be the artist-owned DAO, and actually, you know, for active artists to participate directly in governance, that makes that creates the kind of transparent flywheel that's just exciting for the audience, right? I mean, actually, you know, I mean, I think that the beauty of the DAO concept is that we can invite this kind of collaboration, and with some of the, you know, some of the members of our team who've been that includes people that back in the day recorded with the Rolling Stones, one of the former managers of Rihanna, and various, you know, kind of insiders that are connected directly with the, you know, the top artists in the world. So that's really, you know, one of the most important components is bringing these guys on board. But what we're seeing is, especially coming out of EDM, there's a lot of understanding of NFTs, right? You know, there's kind of DJs have had Discord servers for years already. So there's a synergy, there's a natural synergy between, you know, DJs and producers and NFTs and the understanding of crypto.
All right, so moment of truth here. Paul.
No, Adam, I think it's really cool what you're building. Unfortunately, I won't be much helpful here, given that it's not a focus area of mine. So I'll politely pass on the meeting here.
All right.
No worries. Nice to meet you.
Amy's on mute, maybe.
I'm happy to go next. Yeah, it's going to be a no for me as well. Mostly because I think that the token is pretty important here, and with royalties, it's pretty much guaranteed to be a security. And so I actually think that the DAO setup is going to be challenging in that regard.
All right, Imran.
Yeah, I'd likely pass. You know, offering like the goal is to offer, and this is just my high level feedback, is to offer an easy way for anyone to purchase NFTs. Introducing additional concepts could make it harder for you to acquire new users. So I would just think a little bit about that.
All right, and Tim.
Thank you for your presentation, Adam. It's a no from me as well, mostly around some of the regulatory concerns that we discussed earlier.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I think that the whales here, I think that the common thread was on the regulatory side of things. So if you have a think back on that, maybe there's the opportunity to reconsider, but thank you very much for your presentation and for your time. Let's move on to the next team, which is in the middle of the night right now for them. So thanks to the Struct Fi team for staying up late with us.
Hi everyone, we are Struct Finance and we are building the tools and instruments to enable structured products on DeFi. I'd like to start off with a quick introduction to structured products, and I believe the best way to think about it is that it fills the risk gap between high risk, high return kind of like investments and lower risk, lower return kind of investments. And this financial products are typically constructed by combining a basket of different fixed income instruments, assets, and derivatives. And they're also appealing since they can cater to an array of different risks to return profiles. However, there are a couple of issues when it comes to structuring products in DeFi today, right? Firstly, investors are pretty much beholden to the different parameters set by protocol developers, and this could be like maturity dates, this could be token types. Furthermore, many derivatives protocols continue to utilize an AMM model, and even though the liquidity on it is fragmented due to the presence of multiple different maturity dates, and this results in high slippage if you're trying to transact large volumes. Now, this factors results in a lack of design space for potential structured products that can be produced, and this is also further aggravated by the fact that it's difficult to source and negotiate for this kind of transactions on the blockchain. Now, Struct Finance aims to fill this gap by really creating the means to customize, to source, and to compose these essential instruments together. And we do so by creating 3 different pillars. So the first pillar will be an instrument factory, basically a smart contract factory that generates other smart contracts that will basically do a swap between 2 sets of investors, creating a fixed income instrument and also a yield enhanced instrument. And these instruments can be customized by the instrument factory based on different parameters, whether it's the fixed yield, whether it's maturity dates, whether it's token types as well. The second pillar will be a derivatives aggregator, which basically consolidates and incorporates different derivatives available on both centralized and decentralized exchanges. And lastly, the third pillar will be a lending platform that will accept struct products as collateral, allowing investors to really lever against the different yield-bearing assets. Now, these modules will obviously be built in separate phases, and we'll be starting off with the instrument factory first, since we believe that it will be a crucial ingredient for structured products. But with these pillars in place, we envision investors being able to structure an array of different products, which are, and these categories are common to also traditional finance space as well. And this will be fixed and enhanced yield kind of instruments, principal protected instruments, leverage products, and also products that can be customized for institutions catered to their own kind of like products and portfolios. As a result of this positioning, we sit between 2 broad customer segments. The first one will be crypto native institutions for a start. This could be like DAO treasuries, prop trading firms, foundations, newer protocols as well, where they get to customize their own instruments, invest in them as well, and also structure other products. And for the individual DeFi investor side, they will be mainly doing mostly investing. All right, now let's just do a deep dive into the instrument factory, the initial pillar that we are actually building on. And as I mentioned earlier, this instrument factory will allow whitelisted addressers to customize their own fixed income and yield enhanced instrument for a start. Once they're whitelisted, all they need to do is connect to their wallet, and then they'll be able to customize it based on different parameters, as I mentioned above, like it could be the AMM, it could be the duration, it could be the fixed yield that they are looking at. And once all they need to do is sign the transaction, publish it, and once it's published, they'll be looked at very similar to different vaults that you can see in the space today, very intuitive for different investors to use and also for the partners to deposit. Now, just dive a little deeper into the mechanics behind the fixed and enhanced yield products itself, the one that's generated from the instrument factory. Basically, we get 2 different types of investors with different risk profiles. All they need to do is to single stick into their relevant tranches. One will be the fixed yield tranche and the other is the variable yield tranche. Then we'll deposit it into an LP on an AMM, where it's left to generate yield for a period of time, right? And we'll return this investors proof of their deposit. And then once upon maturity, based on the parameters set by the instrument factory, we'll consolidate the position, take out the tokens along with the reward tokens and pay off the senior tranche first. The senior tranche investors will receive their principal plus the fixed yield, while the remainder will go to the junior investor. And once the senior investor and junior investor return their proof of deposit, we'll return them their allocated share. For our business model, we'll be charging both a performance fee and a management fee. And in terms of the roadmap, we've split it kind of like into 2 or 3 different phases. For the first phase, it'll be more of building out that first pillar, getting our seed round funding done, getting the minor and major audits done as well before doing an IDO and also launching on mainnet in Q2. And then in phase 2, we'll be building up that second pillar, developing more institutional competencies and also moving on to a different chain. So we'll be starting off in Avalanche and moving on to Ethereum next. Now, as for the team, so Ersin, Miguel, and myself, we are the co-founders, and Ersin is more of the domain expert. He has more than 20+ years in the financial markets with experience in trading derivatives, interest rate swaps, FX, and as an expert in trading systems. Miguel is a marketing expert. He has more than 16+ years in telecoms and also running multiple businesses himself in both e-commerce and blockchain. I'm more of the DeFi architect, I've worked in multiple different venture studio and in product management myself. And Pranesh is our protocol lead. He's the smart contract expert, has built multiple different DeFi and crypto protocols. Mariana is our front end lead, mainly working on integrating the front end. And Falk is our head of tech, who has been in multiple CTO positions. Yep, so that's it. Yep, I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. Yeah.
You got it through in 5 minutes and 3 seconds. So thank you for the presentation. Now it's whale time. Dun, dun, dun. All right, go for it, Wales.
Hey, Luis, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, congrats on starting this. I think my one piece of feedback would be just, it seems like a lot that you're building, right? There's a lot going on from just the pits in the first glance. Would love to maybe just like, out of all the stuff that you're building, and I know you're building in phases, but like from a focus area side of things, like what is it that, you know, out of the 3-4 pillars that you got, like that is the highest focus for you right now?
So as I mentioned, the highest focus right now is that instrument factory is basically a fixed income instrument, right? Which basically builds out the fixed income instrument. And we believe that different pillars actually consist of, rather builds out the ingredients that's required for an array of different structured products. Yeah.
Hey, Luis, can you talk about some of your competitive differentiation for Struct versus, you know, other structured products, protocols? You know, what sets you guys apart?
Yep. So I would say for products such as like different options vaults, what we are mainly trying to do is really to pass on the responsibility of managing those vaults to, let's say, different partners, different institutions as well. That's one of the main components. That's why we are building out the ingredients where, or rather instruments where they are able to customize, or rather allowing them to really customize those different instruments themselves and build it out and structure it themselves. That's one of the components. For other, like, let's say, fixed income protocols as well, the main difference I would say would be that most of them are currently using more of like an AMM structure, and we are trying to move away from that so that we can allow people to transact larger volumes. Yeah.
Yeah, quick question. On the fixed income side, primarily fixed income products are geared towards institutions. And so how do you think about institutions leveraging DeFi based on their kind of strategies today? That would be my number one question. And then number two is like, then how would you think about KYC ML?
So right now, the focus for us is actually more of crypto native institutions as well. And this could include, and when we say crypto native institutions, we includes also like DAO treasuries and also, let's say, newer protocols as well. So that will actually be one of the core focus for us in the meantime. And we've really spoken to the likes of different DAOs, right, on the Avalanche ecosystem. And they've actually also expressed a lot of interest into actually supplying substantial liquidity to this, into the protocol as well. And for, let's say, the newer protocol side, one of the use cases, what we realized, and we realized it because we've identified the problem for ourselves, is that newer protocols usually require to do a DEX listing. What we can do is to allow them to just deposit into the junior tranche side and opening up the senior tranche side to, let's say, multiple different investors in the space, since it will be kind of like a stable coin with higher yield, right? And then you will be able to get the LP, you will be able to bootstrap their LP with half the amount and also lock it up for a period of time.
Now, can you talk about giving a lot of users the ability to customize a lot of the parameters here? How do you think about liquidity fragmentation as a result, and how do you sort of solve that problem?
Liquidity fragmentation as a result of customizing different parameters. Can you elaborate a little bit on that part? Yeah.
I guess what I mean is if you've got a lot of different pools, each of which has its own set of parameters, does that create some sort of fragmentation of liquidity, or is that not an issue?
So I mean, for us, we would let the market decide, honestly. In terms of fragmentation of liquidity, it won't really be a huge issue for us because we're actually going to stagger the deposits into the LP. Yeah.
Thanks.
What does your early traction look like? Like, can you describe some of the institutions that you've been talking to and their interest level and whether some have committed to work with you?
Okay, so we have been talking to the likes of QCP Capital and Wintermute, which already committed, and we have good relationships with GSR. They haven't committed. On the VC side, we are talking to Mohabit Capital committed and Avalanche Blizzard as well. And then we have some Avalanche native DAOs like A Ventures and 0x Ventures as well on board. And next week we have GBV and Jump Capital, Colony, and Fembushi also.
How do you think about the competitive landscape? And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a quick example. You have Ribbon that first started out with like kind of structured products that are built on open, as an example. And then you had other competitors that were building similar products on other chains. And then I think most recently Ribbon announced that they're also going to be competing on Solana. And so like, how do you see this landscape? Do you foresee like others like Barnbridge coming into other chains? How do you keep yourself defensible? What are some like kind of go-to-market strategies and things like that you're thinking about?
I think the in terms of a mode, I would say is that we are trying to focus mainly on, let's say, partnerships and different institutions as well. I think that will be the main core mode, I would say. For example, Ribbon is mainly doing most of the management, and then they do allow the different market makers to buy it, but then they sell it off to, let's say, the retail liquidity, right? But what we are trying to do is to allow the institutions or the partners to also like do the customization themselves, and that requires and also for, let's say, the part where we are dealing with multiple different newer protocols and using different accelerators and VCs to really channel that demand in, I would say that that requires significant amount of partnerships and BD work, which I would say that will be a core differentiation. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about your business model? You mentioned a sort of management fee and carry, but are there any more details that you can share about that?
So right now we are thinking of a 10% performance fee, and with regards to management fee, we have not really finalized on that number at this point in time. We are looking at roughly 1 to 2% at this point in time. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, let's get to the big decision point here. Tim, what do you say?
So, I think this is quite interesting. I'd love to take that next meeting with you. Thanks for the presentation.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Amy.
Probably no. I think this is still a little bit early, and would love to stay in touch and see as you guys build and go to market.
All righty, Paul.
Yeah, similar to Amy, it's probably no as well. I think just observing and then seeing the go-to-market, product market fit, etc., would be a much better idea for me.
All right, finally, Imran.
No, for me as well. I think what's just great for me is just understanding more or less the competitive landscape between all of the layer ones and protocols they're building.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for staying up late to the StructFi team. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation. Well done.
Thank you.
I thought that was an awesome show. I want to thank all of our whales, all of our projects for participating in the first, and I hope first of many episodes of Chainlink Labs Whale Tank. You might have heard we've launched Startup with Chainlink recently, which is a super exciting program. This is basically a global community that startups like the ones you have talked to who are thinking about launching a crypto project and want access to resources, other founders, ideas about how to most effectively launch your crypto startup can come to as a place to learn, grow, and get better. And I think that it's safe to say that members of the Startup with Chainlink community will have the chance in the future to go through this whale tank themselves. So I welcome you to apply to the program, read more about what we're doing, and we look forward to meeting you and having you be part of our Startup with Chainlink community. Once again, my name is David Post. If you like this, please press the like button and share it. And we look forward to having you involved in many future whale tank sessions in the future. Have a good day. I'm out.